Janice? Hello?
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hi, Karen. How's you?
All right, thank you. Are you?
Yes, thank you. How was your day, Janice?
I'm isolating. I was sent home from work on Monday because I haven't contacted a child who's tested positive for the Delta variant. There's absolutely no chance of me getting it. I was nowhere near him, but procedures. So I was sent home, so I can't leave the house until midnight on Sunday.
Right, okay.
Which has made life interesting.
Yes. Oh, right. Well, but do you have to work, or can you?
Yes. Well, yes and no. I mean, my boss phoned as soon as. Well, I was sent home on Monday late lunchtime, and she did phone with some work after that. But then she hasn't sent it. So my work has really been trying. This is a laptop. I've got a new laptop, and I've never used it before. So I've had to set it. I've been getting used to doing all the stuff that I have to do at home for work, sort of accessing emails and stuff. So I've been learning how to use it, and technology is not my thing. So I'm really proud of myself because I'm on this Zoom on the laptop.
Well done.
And it looks very different. I can tell you, it looks very different from the iPad. All of the tools for it are in different places. Like I can't find out where the gallery view is because normally
it's usually up in the right hand corner.
Is it? Oh yeah, it says view.
Hi Jane.
Hi. Oh yeah. Oh gosh, yeah, look at that.
Well,
Jane, I take it you're not Nigel.
No. No. It's too complicated to swap it. So yes,
I'll try to remember.
Yeah. Should I be able to see everybody's faces? Is that what I'm supposed to have done?
Now, if you go up into the top right-hand corner with the mouse.
Oh, I'm just on a little iPad here, but let me just.
Okay.
So on the iPad,
Janice might know.
Yeah.
Gallery view.
Gallery view. That's right. Top left.
It. Yes, that's lovely.
Yay! There we go.
Boom. Smashing. So what I'd like to do is step out of the way for a moment and ask you if you mind introducing yourself to each other. Just briefly mention why you'd like to do the energy journey. Put you on the spot now. So let's see. Shall we go? I was going to say now.
I'll go first.
Thank you, Jane.
I can do this. Yes. I'm Jane, not Nigel. And somebody that Nigel actually knows very well had highly recommended Susie, thought it might be useful for me. I've had migraines for a very long while, and they're not as severe now as they used to be, but I can still get them and still get days when I feel I shouldn't quite feel like I am. So if Susie can make that better, plus we've got 4 grandchildren, and as you get older I want to keep my energy levels as high as I can to be able to keep up with them, and I do sometimes flag towards the end of the day, plus you've just got all other things going on as we get older, but touch wood, I haven't got anything too drastic, so it's really just to kind of make me feel as best as I can for my age, using food and Susie's ways, which I would much prefer than having to take tablets. So that's kind of me.
That's lovely, thank you.
I'll go next if you like.
Oh, thank you, Karen. Yeah.
I could really just echo what Jane's just said, really. Apart from, I don't quite know what I want to get out of this, because I've never actually asked you what we're going to do.
You know, that's something I've thought about too.
But I've got huge faith in you, Susie.
Thank you.
And I know that I'm not fit, I'm not even fit for my age, if you know what I mean. So I'm hoping that the things that you're going to teach me are going to help that. And I really do believe in anything other than medicine. So yeah.
Lovely.
And my name's Karen, by the way. It looks like Karen, but it's Karen if you can.
Karen. Karen.
Okay.
Thank you, Karen. That's brilliant. How about yourself, Janice?
So I mean, I've known Susie quite a long time actually, and I did sort of like an earlier version of this course with her about 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm kind of doing it again now for a number of reasons. I need to recheck in with my health at the moment. I've gone through a lot of stress, and this feels like a good point to try and check in again. And just, you know, if I'm doing this every week, it will remind me every week to look after my health, and I think that's a really good thing for the next 12 weeks for me. Also, mentally, I think being checking in with people every week who have like minds, and you know, it's interesting topics, and you know, you can learn and bounce off each other. That's good for my mental health at the moment as well. And then just physically to try and improve on you know, there's quite a number of issues that, you know, weight, I'd like to lose some weight, I'd like to try and get some energy back, you know, a whole load of things really that I'm just trying to achieve, that I've discussed with Susie, just general improve my health over the 12 weeks. I think that would be it.
That's lovely, thank you.
No pressure, Susie. we want to be positively bouncing.
One's required, I think.
Well, this is the tricky thing, because obviously I always share with people that I can provide the information, I can, and I encourage and what's the word? Hold accountable, but actually all the hard work does come at your end in a way, because if you can imagine, making change is always a challenge, but we do it slowly here, little by little, so that you get time to sort of start making things a habit, slowly, and then gently your body will respond usually very beautifully to that, with the consistency. So nutrition is never an overnight cure, for sure, but little by little, because we have to give the body's cells time. And you know, Janice will know from having used, if she doesn't mind me mentioning, there's a lovely couple over in Liverpool who do something called thermal imaging, and they it's used for all sorts of reasons, but the amazing thing about it is it's not invasive in any way, because what it does is it measures the heat from your body's cells, and it creates this beautiful rainbow-like image of you, doesn't it, Janice?
Yeah.
Oh, that's me. And it tells you which bits of the body should be red and orange and so on, and which bits should be green and blue, and when they're sort of red and orange and so on in the wrong places, then you know that you've got a little bit too much inflammation going on in the body, and that you need to do something about it. And so that is what they do. Is what I was going to say is that they have a 3-month baseline, and so what they'll do is they'll look at where you are now, and they'll take another snapshot in 3 months after, because often it takes the body's cells that long at least even to start to make changes at a very deep level. But it is amazing. Rosa has fed back to me that with nutritional changes, she can see changes when people have worked with me in only 3 months. So it's quite interesting to have that registered on something like a thermogram.
And what was it called? Susie?
Thermography.
Sorry?
Thermography or thermal imaging.
I can remember that better.
Yeah.
And is that different from reading your aura?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's a scientific sort of technology. And what they know is, for example, that a thermogram can detect changes in the breast 8 years before a mammogram, for example.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it's safe. And mammograms, of course, are, using radiation. So that's just one example, but they can scan, any part of the body, or all of the body. And they are an amazing couple. They're both homeopaths, and so that's another modality that they use as well, to help people. The reason that Rosa knows so much about it is she had stage 4 breast cancer, which she healed with nutrition, naturopathy, homeopathy. And the way that they monitored it for her was using the thermography.
Brilliant.
Gosh.
So, yeah, quite an interesting couple. So what I'll do is I'll grab our presentation and we'll get cracking. Now, I'm going to apologise because there's a lot to cover tonight, because it's a bit of an overview of our 3 months, and so it's an introduction to everything, really. And it's lovely that you both said, yourself, Karen and Jane, well, I don't know exactly what we're going to do. And Janice doesn't know exactly what we're going to do. But tonight, it's sort of an overlook at everything.
It's twice the length, I think it was, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it's a lovely length of time in which to have that support, because it's much more beneficial. And so just a quick introduction to me. I do practice what I preach. I'm dead boring Capricorn, Taurian ascendant, just boringly do what I say. So forgive me if I can be a bit dogmatic sometimes. I started out my alternative health career in reflexology in '95, and then trained in nutrition and naturopathy after that, passing 1999. I started teaching practitioners since 2003, and I've also since then taught a lot of short courses, seminars, webinars, done a wellbeing at work seminar in the workplace, and the Eat for Energy and Energy Journey, in the hopes of helping people find vegetables, vitality and va-va-voom. And I've also run juice detox retreats and guided home juice detox retreats as well. And those are to access cleansing at a cellular level much more deeply. So they have a real purpose. So welcome to the Energy Journey, and we've had some introductions. So thank you very much. And what I'd like to do, I think, is set up a WhatsApp group for us, because I think not everybody is on Facebook. So if we keep a message thread going on WhatsApp in case you've any questions during the time when we're not seeing each other, but you can always drop me an email anyway, and ask a question. I'll get onto that as quickly as I can. So we'll have recipes and ideas for each aspect, as we go along. There are handouts for each week covering what we've been talking about. And so you don't particularly need to take notes, but I know some people do like to take notes. And the other thing is I'll send out a copy of the slides as a PDF that you can print out and keep. And also I'll send you a recording of each session, a link to each session. So as I said, nutrition is not an overnight cure, but the potential it has, given time and given consistency, is absolutely enormous. Oh, hello, your mouse is, that's it. So really what we're going to look at tonight is thinking about our body as a macrocosm, and that we are full of about 100 trillion tiny little cells, which are the microcosms of the macrocosm. And so there's a lovely quote from Bruce Lipton, and he says, consider cells as miniature humans. And his book, which I would, really highly recommend if you fancy having a read up about cells and their potential, is The Biology of Belief, because he believes that what we think about will affect every single cell in our body. Not, you may have heard that many times before. So he says that we're a bustling community of 50 trillion individual cells, and this is the tricky thing, because you could, depending on which anatomy and physiology book you read, everybody has a different idea about how many trillion flipping cells there are in the body. And of course, I bet I've got a lot less than everybody else because I'm only 4'11". But but the basic idea is that if we can nourish each and every individual cell and give it its optimum needs, then we will also re-nourish the whole body, the body's organs, the body's tissues, the body's systems. And so what we're going to have a look at tonight is the relationship between the cells and the body, and also with water, and particularly essential fats and the acid-alkaline balance, and some other things along the way. And so what I always say to people is that really, when you think about your house, if it's made of bricks or building blocks, has anybody got a house that's not made of bricks or building blocks? Oh, thank goodness. That they are really like the cells of your body. So the bricks of your house, the cells of your body. And every organ, every set of tissues in the body is made up of those cells. And the difference between those and bricks is that obviously they are a living organism and they have certain needs for survival. And so again, another quote from Bruce Lipton, because all of these little cells will be wearing out on a daily basis. And so the whole of your cellular lining of your gut is replaced every 72 hours. Every 3 days, you have a new gut. So you can imagine how much sort of wear and tear there is from digesting our food. And every single 3 days, we get a new set of cells that are going to be a new lining that is going to help digest our food and therefore be able to efficiently absorb. And so in order for us to keep making all those cells every day, and that's just the gut, your body uses an enormous amount of energy. And another quote from Bruce Lipton, because it's such a brilliant book about cells. What I'd like you to think about is that each and every cell is a little bit like a goldfish in a tank. And so if you look at this goldfish tank here, it's in beautiful, clear water. It's full of beautiful, clear water. the goldfish can see out, it can see through the water, and it's a clean alkaline environment. And so he says, just like you and me, cells are shaped by where they live. It's about the environment. And so, you know, from that perspective, you can think about, you know, literally the environment in which we live in. If we live in, you know, an inner city, we're going to be subjected to more traffic fumes. We're going to be subjected to maybe more industrial waste. And so each of those will have an impact on what we breathe in and the environment that we live in. So that's our external environment. But we can also create a fabulous internal environment with what we put in via our food. And so looking at what the body needs, it needs pure water, fresh air, ideally bright sunshine on a regular basis. I've been a bit short of it this year early on. Caught up a bit now, thank goodness. Real nutrient dense, vitally alive whole foods that are fresh. We need to move our body, and ideally we need to have, you know, loving relationships, hope, compassion, and a sense of purpose. So we're doing something that, you know, we can believe in. That's, anybody heard of Tony Robbins?
I'm not sure.
He's an NLP trainer.
Yeah, I think
How he originally started. Yeah.
I'm just trying to make myself a drink, so I switched it off. But I've actually been to a talk by him.
Have you?
Yeah. It was quite an experience. But yeah, it was a huge number of people in one room. Absolutely huge.
Thousands usually.
Yeah. I've never been in a room with so many people at a talk, and he got them all really pumped up.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I've actually seen him.
He's an energetic guy, isn't he? He's sort of a motivation coach, really, calls himself.
Yeah.
Very energetic. So thinking about this evening, we're going to have a look at well-being versus stress and what stress does to the cells. We're going to have a look at that from a physical, emotional, mental and soul level perspective. We're going to have a look at hydration, essential fats, acid alkaline balance, and all of those have an effect on our physical, emotional, mental, and our spiritual level as well. And so, you know, thinking about maybe why we're here and how we want to feel and how we want our body to feel. And all of those are like a food. And so how we handle the stress versus well-being, or bringing well-being in. So when the body is in a state of well-being, we could say then that it's in a state of growth and repair, because when your body's not stressed, growth and repair is what it's doing, because your cells are able to function in a very, very different way. They're able to reproduce, they're able to repair, and they're able to restore themselves. And the inner workings of the cell, which are, you know, little energy factories like your mitochondria, are able to repair and so on. And if our body is in that growth and repair state, then we feel able to usually innovate and create. Our creativity is high, we have ideas, we have our get up and go, and, you know, we feel like life is good. And so our little cell then can bring nutrients in and it can transport waste out. And so thinking about growth and protection, your nervous system controls those growth and protection behaviours. And so it's if the nervous system is triggered with stress and recognizes that stress, its job is to alert the cells to any impending problems. And so we're a multicellular organism. We've got all these millions of trillions of cells, and the nervous system is like the government, not like the current government, but like the government of the body, organising our cellular citizens, if you like. Made me think of Wolfie then. Does anybody remember Wolfie? Now, what did he used to say? Oh, I can't remember what he used to say. Anyway, long time since I watched that programme. So, stress and the body. What happens when we're stressed? Well, actually, a heck of a lot more. And none of it is very good. Because when you're stressed, when you're worried about something, when you're worried something might happen or not happen, your body goes into defense mode. And what happens when it goes into defense mode is it stops that growth, that natural growth, sort of a replacement and restoring. Your heart rate goes up, your cholesterol levels raise, your blood clotting rate increases. Its ability to cleanse itself, so your cellular cleansing goes down. So that nutrients in, waste out does not happen as efficiently. Your immune system levels drop. Now, water, what happens to water in the body when you're on defense mode is that you start to either lose it because you sweat more, or you start to misplace it. You start to hold it in the wrong places. So when you're in, a stress situation, your body can actually start to swell. So you can get a bloated abdomen, you can get maybe swollen ankles, and those kind of things, swollen fingers. And so your body is putting water in the wrong place. It's behaving a little bit like a camel with the humps. And the reason a camel stores water in the humps is because it knows it's going into a dry environment. And when your body's stressed, specifically what's happening is a dry environment is being created. So what also happens is that the blood supply to your frontal cortex of your brain drops, and also the blood supply to your digestion goes down. And the blood that nourishes your limbs drops as well. And so all of those mean that you're not thinking as clearly, you're not digesting food as efficiently, and you're also maybe getting cold hands and feet sometimes, or your limbs just aren't as, they sort of might feel like there's a disconnect. Now, am I going too fast, or are we all right?
Just about keeping up.
Yeah.
You say that we get a recording so we can listen to this again?
Yes, you can. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Are you just feeling too depressed to carry on now? Shall I stop?
Or me?
No, everybody.
No, I'm just finding it quite scary because this stress thing is so me.
Yeah.
So I'm sloping here. I was even getting stressed because, well, I tried to call you because I thought I haven't got the day right.
Oh.
Oh my goodness.
Oh dear, so you've had a sort of stressful beginning before we've even got on here.
Yes, because I'm getting bothered. Yeah, because it's quite scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel quite scared by all of that. Yeah, I must admit.
Yes, yeah.
To lighten the mood a little bit for you, Susie, it's power to the people.
That's it. Thank you.
Hopefully that's de-stressed everybody a little bit.
That's Wolfie. That's it. Yeah. What was it called, Janice?
Citizen Smith. Was it?
Citizen Smith.
Well
that's
done.
it. Yes, thank you. Brilliant. Yeah. So there we go. What happens is that your body, when you're stressed and when you're burning the candle at both ends, or you're worrying or you're anxious, your body literally goes into dehydration alert. And I'll explain why that is. And if you think about all the physiology that takes place when you're in dehydration alert, is that you know, we said about your heart rate increasing, your breathing rate, you sweat more, your adrenal glands, which we haven't mentioned on the previous slide, go into fight and flight and produce cortisol and adrenaline, which sets off another load of physiology in action. And all of that physiology is using more water. So the more stressed you are, the more dehydrated you become. And then if you think about, oh, sorry, let's head back. Is the mouse gone? If we think back a moment to stress, what I'd like to say to you is that when you have a little cell who's stressed, and I'd just like you to think about this one little cell here in the picture. I had a Liverpudlian tutor, Janice will have heard this before, and she used to say to us in the lecture, she used to say, that little cell is terrified, it's cacking its pants because it's so dry, because it should be about 70% water. And so the drier it gets, the more terrified it gets, the more anxious it gets. And eventually, if you think about this, all that you are is your cells. And you will inevitably start to feel how your cells feel. You will feel that anxiety at a nervous system level. Does that make sense?
It's a bit which comes first, the chicken or the egg, though, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And then you're in a catch-22 where the chicken and the egg are chasing each other around. Yeah.
How quickly can you sort it out? That, because it sounds so horrific, and it's so. I mean, I can really relate to everything you've said. But yeah. I'm thinking, my God, I could die before I've got it sorted out.
Well, it's the first step on the road.
I need more water.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask? Since we had a chat about this the other day, I've been upping my water a lot.
Fantastic. Yes.
But can you have a kind of a healing response to that? Because I've actually been more stressed since I've been drinking all the water.
Yes, that's an interesting point. I mean, obviously, this is what's really interesting. Actually, can I leave this and come back to it, Karen? Because I think we're going to cover this a bit later on. Yeah.
No problems.
Oops. So, and you'll see where I'm coming from with this. So just thinking about the brain actually is 80% water. And so what they found is in 4 research studies that were done between 1999 and 2004 is that every single major illness is linked to stress.
Yes.
And so 75 to 90% of visits to GPs have stress as a major contributing factor. And the other thing that's really interesting is if you look at the hippocampus, which is involved with memory, in depressed people, they have a surprising lack of cell division. And of course, cell division is what creates new brain cells. And so the other thing to think about is that another study that I've seen suggests that when people are depressed, they have about a 40% less hydration in the brain. And so is thinking, well, again, did the dehydration come before the depression? Or did the depression come before the dehydration? And so in chronic depression, the hippocampus and this prefrontal cortex, which is part of the brain that sort of thinks, now, is that the right thing or is that the right thing? It's about making decisions. they're both physically shrunken. And so you can see the difference, you know, these lit up areas in no depression and the sort of more dulled, depressive brain. So Deepak Chopra, who you may have heard of, lovely philosopher, I like to call him, talked about stress and emotions. And he says, of course, that our thoughts partly contribute to that dehydration just because of what we think. Because if our cells are in defense mode, one of the ways that we can re-nourish them is to start thinking slightly differently. Because he says we have 60,000 thoughts a day and 90% of them are the same as yesterday. Would you agree with that? Or
Yeah, could, yeah.
Do you think, you know, that things you worried about yesterday are probably
a very big percentage, definitely.
Yeah, and so that sort of stuckness creates a kind of stagnation in the body of its own. So, you know, even let's say self-critical thoughts, if we are able to change some of them, then we're going to, you know, start to feel, cells will start to feel differently, because we're changing the way that we're thinking about our poor old, you know, poor old status of our body. So this is looking at the body from a very philosophical view, I know, and obviously what I do is very, very practical, but all of it will feed into the higher aspects of ourselves. So if we think about our well-being from a spiritual point of view, our cells are like a community. Our body is a community of cells. And of course, if you think about that community of cells, they all have a connection with each other. And the ideal is that they're able to communicate with each other. So if you've got all your gut cells, your gut lining that is replacing itself every 3 days, you're going to be able to want the gut to do what the gut cells should do. You're going to want your heart cells to do what the heart cells should do. And to be able to do that, they need to be able to communicate with each other, connect with each other, and make up a whole organ. And so, you know, it's having all your cells committing to a common plan of action, which is, you know, the role that they should be playing in your body. And then thinking about that from a sort of mental emotional point of view will feed into, you know, the higher aspects of ourself, because really we can't be bothered to worry about what we believe about life and feeling, you know, vital in our life if we're feeling rubbish. You know, we haven't got the energy. Does that make sense? So what they found with meditators, of course, who are, they're not exactly positive thinkers, but they allow thoughts to pass through, you know, and they sort of watch them like clouds in the sky and say, okay, well, I'll just allow you to pass through. What they found was that the activity in their medial prefrontal cortex increased, their hippocampus density involved with memory increased, and their amygdala, which is the part of the brain involved with fear, anxiety and stress, decreased. So all positive things that have come out of meditation. And these are, you know, probably, I don't know how long Buddhists meditate every day, but I should think it's some hours. Would you know, Karen?
No, I don't know about Buddhists. I know that transcendental meditation generally does 20 minutes twice a day. 20 minutes
twice a day, yeah.
But so, it is 30 years since I learned it. They might have upped to it by now. There's more stress around now.
They might need to. So just to recap at this point, what I'd like you to think is, I am a cell. And, you know, if I nourish my cell and I create the right environment in it, and the right vibration, then it'll be able to grow and repair. And that sort of energy and vibration, as I said, it sort of comes from partly what we're thinking about, because if you like, that's the source of stress, really. What we believe, what we think about, you know, sometimes the things that we do each day, you know, if we do the same thing day in, day out, rather than perhaps do something differently, even if it's walk to the shop via a different route, or go on the bike or something like that, you know, or walk instead of going in the car, then or just have a walk, you know, in the outside environment. If we do something different, then our body will feel differently and respond differently. And so your cells are yourself. And one of these days, I'm going to write a book called Your Health, Yourself, or something like that, and spell it like this, because, you know, we are that self. And so what I'd like you to think about from the perspective of health is that a happy cell is one that is able to cleanse. It's one that is 70% water or 80% in the brain, that by creating that movement of nutrients in and waste out, you can actually create a cell that will be vibrantly, you know, healthy. And that an unhappy cell is one that does not have enough water, that it's stagnant, and dis-ease is able to fester in that environment. So I know it sounds really simplistic, and I hope you'll forgive me for this, for the beginning point, but water is absolutely the beginning key or foundation stones before you put anything else in. It's the starting point. Sorry, I've got a bit of mouse problem here. So from an emotional point of view, the state of our cells, you know, there's our nervous system in the middle, because we're just a huge nervous system in the mind and down the central, you know, the spine running down the center of the back, with all the nervous system coming off that, giving messages to the rest of our cells. And so when we have water, even just for example, it's easier for the nervous system to conduct impulses along itself, because it's basically a set of cells as well. And obviously this nervous system in our brain is 80% water, not just 70. And the mind is able to think more clearly if it's more hydrated. And so the book I'd like to mention, you know this one then, Karen? Yeah. For water and spirituality is Masaru Emoto, The Hidden Messages in Water. Now, this Japanese gentleman, unfortunately, he died in the last couple of years, I think, and he'd been researching water for years. And he would get his researchers, some of them to collect the water and then freeze it. And then it would be given to a set of researchers who didn't know the source of it to examine the crystals, the frozen crystals under the microscope. And what they found was absolutely astonishing. They found that water that had been frozen in bottles marked gratitude or thank you or wisdom or truth or angel or I love you had formed the most beautiful, even perfectly formed snowflakey water crystals. Whereas when they were played rock music that was a bit, sort of jagged and disjointed, if the water had been taken from somewhere polluted, if it had a word on the bottle like evil or you make me sick, that water would not form beautiful crystals. They would be jagged, they would be misformed or malformed, and that they would be really not attractive to look at. That's a very, that's a real judgment there, but the photographs in the book are quite fascinating. And really, again, then you're back to thinking about your thoughts, because your thoughts are communicating at every second to your cells and communicating to the water in your cells. Now, once I read Masaru Emoto's book, I really thought, wow, this must be how healing works in the body. The healing must vibrate on the water in the body. And that must be how it works. Because, when you think about the change that can be created by healers or Reiki or other modalities like Reiki, then this that energy must be vibrating on something. And water, what they've discovered is that water has a surface tension and it's able to carry a vibration, like the vibration of a word, the vibration of a sound, the vibration of an environment, such as where it's come from. And they did another really interesting study that I think he mentions in this book of his, whereby they had a mucky lake that they'd taken water from, and they then had a group of meditators just meditate about the lake. And gradually the lake started to clean up, and they took another water sample, and it was an entirely different crystal than the one that they had started with. It's really quite remarkable.
Yeah.
And when you think about places like Lourdes, where people go to be healed in the water, and I think there are several places like Lourdes, aren't there, where people can go for healing. But it's back to that thing that your cell is vibrating in water, communicating and feeling and knowing what the other cells know. It's like that 100th monkey syndrome. How does the 100th monkey syndrome work? When one set of monkeys on the island discover that if they wash their sweet potatoes in the sea, they taste much better and they don't have to eat all the mud on them or kind of scrape it off with their fingers. And then another set of monkeys on an island close by who are completely disconnected, suddenly all start to wash their sweet potatoes in the sea. And, it's a little bit like that. How do we as a collective know something? Now, Lynn McTaggart, I read a fascinating book of hers, and she talked about when the Twin Towers incident happened. And she said that at the time there was some sort of machinery that a scientist had set up that measured sort of vibrational atmosphere, but on the Earth. And that when a massive event like that happened, for example, because it was in America, when a big football game was won or something like that, there would be a little woo in the measurement of the because so many people are interested in football. Sorry to mention football, but apparently with the Twin Towers there was even a little blip slightly before, and then an absolutely massive one just after it all sort of went out onto the media and so on, as though the collective consciousness kind of went like this. And so what I'd like to suggest, and this is my own personal philosophy, and I don't know what anybody else believes, but I believe that we do communicate at a cellular level, that we have that understanding. You know, if we walk into a room and an argument's just happened, but we weren't there, we know that the energy is charged. We know, and we must be picking that up, that vibration up at a cellular level. Or we pick up that they know with heart math, this thing where they found out that your heart, if it's coherent and, it's beating steadily and it's calm and the rhythm is calm, that rhythm goes out from you 2 meters beyond, and that you are able to influence someone who has a sort of feeling a bit, anxious and jagged, that you can calm them down if they're in your space, because generally the more anxious person's heart rhythm will calm to the same rate as the calmer person in the room. And that's what they've discovered through research.
Can I add a little story to that? Apparently, in the TM field, they took a group of students from a university or somewhere and had them meditate in a room. And then right at the other side of the campus, they had another group of students, and they were all wired up to, is it for the brain,
Yes, electrodes, yes.
Yes. And when the meditators went into the deep meditation that they call transcendence, the brain pattern of the ones miles away who were just sitting there went the same.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
So when you consider that people who meditate are influencing lots of people around, that's a really good example of that. I think.
Yes, it is. That vibration is changing. Yeah, because didn't they say, Karen, that where there was a big TM group in the States, the violence levels in that city dropped?
Yeah, it's called the Maharishi effect.
Right, yeah.
And he's the leader, or was the leader of the TM movement.
I see, yeah.
Yes, they did it a lot, and it did help lots of times. Yeah, they went into areas of the world that were really struggling and meditated as near as they could get for safety.
To the conflict, yes. Yes, I have heard that too. Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful, isn't it?
It is.
Really wonderful.
Yeah. We all ought to be going for 20 minutes a day, really, didn't we? So then, moving on to essential fatty acids, which I expect you will have heard of. Are all fats bad?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah. No, not all fats. That's great. So we're going to have a look in a number of weeks' time at essential fats, saturated fats, trans fats, and see, what we need, what we don't need. But certainly not all saturated fats are bad, and given, they're given a very bad press generally. So if you think about essential fats in the body, the place where you mostly find fats is in the cell membrane. And I can't remember to tell you how tiny each and every cell is, but just to say now that if we pulled a drain plug out of your big toe and all the fat from your cells, from your cell linings, your cell membranes drained out of your body, it would cover 10 football pitches.
Oh my golly.
Yeah. And you know how you see oil on a puddle? It would be like that, but over 10 football pitches. And so if you have the right ratio of fats in the body, then your cells will be able to bring nutrients in and exit wastes, because there will be a flexible fluid membrane. Whereas if the membrane is made up of the wrong kind of fats, it becomes a bit cut off, and you know, your cells aren't able to receive nutrients as readily, they're not able to cleanse as readily, and so there can be a problem there. And some fats are more inflammatory than others, so it's really important to get the ratios right. Now, what's also amazing is that essential fats are rich in electrons, and electrons attract photons in light. Now, what I've found, and what Joanna Budvig has said for donkey's years, and I don't know, she used to say that if your essential fat ratios were out, if your fat ratios were out, it would be very, very hard for you to sit in the sunshine for any length of time, because you wouldn't feel particularly comfortable. And so it's getting that ratio right that helps you be able to moisten the organs that need to be moistened when you are in the warmth and the light of the sun. And so this is really significant, because when you've got that electron-rich energy in the body, the photon light will strike the electrons, and again, you create a kind of energy in your body that is at atomic level, which is very, very different than, you know, the physical energy that we create. So it's almost like being a solar battery, because that's basically what we are. And being able to use sunlight, because then you'll be able to oxygenate your cells and support the production of 2,000 plus enzymes in the body that are needed for all your cellular activity, digestion as well, etc., etc. So also, essential fats help you make prostaglandins. Prostaglandins are short-acting tissue hormones that are usually in the body for moments, but they help with things like liver detoxification. They reduce inflammation in the body. So they don't exactly oil your body, but you could look at it that way if you like, but they reduce inflammation. So they're lovely for your circulatory system, and, you know, making good blood vessels. They help you with elimination, again, from the liver and from the kidneys. They help improve your heart health, and there's a set of nutrients particularly that help you use essential fats: B3, B6, vitamin C and E, magnesium and zinc. And we'll be coming back to those as well, and, you know, how we can use those and include them as well. So thinking about your nervous system, you know, your brain, your emotional self, and essential fatty acids. If your membrane is flexible and fluid, and if you can imagine, we saw those two pictures of the brain, one that is not depressed, one that is depressed, and thinking about how emotionally expressive a non-depressed brain is. You know, its emotions are able to flow through, if you like. Whereas when somebody's depressed, often their voice is very monotone, and they are in a very sort of flat state. They're unable to express other emotions apart from that sort of low state. And Candace Pert in Molecules of Emotion looks at that emotional expressiveness of our cells, but particularly our membranes, because the membrane is the brain of the cell. And what they also know is that if you have the right amount of essential fats in your cells, that they make beautiful shaped docking sites for your neurotransmitters, and your neurotransmitters such as acetylcholine for memory, such as serotonin for serenity and well-being, and sleep as well, and also for dopamine, which is the not only just well-being, but get up and go and motivation, and let's go and do an energy journey with Susie Sherratt. And oh God, here I am, what am I doing? And then physical pH, if we look at that. Oh, sorry, click back to the other one. Hang on a second. There we go. So looking at the body in terms of acid or alkaline, because what I'd like to say to you is that your body, your cells, your tissues, and your organs, all your cells are happiest in an alkaline pH. And if you look in that sort of goldfish bowl there and you think about your cell, you could understand, you know, at a pH of 7 going on to 7.3, 7.5, it's going to be a happy state for your cell because the water's clear and you want to jump in as a cell, you know, as a goldfish, you want to jump in that water. And I bet you've got to, you know, you've maybe got to the sea sometimes and you thought, oh my God, it looks so blue and clear today and the sun's shining on it and I'm just going to jump in. And then you'll go on a, you know, a horrible winter's day and it looks grey and uninviting. And you think, I'm definitely not jumping in. But maybe, you know, you'll have seen that sometimes where, because there are some beautiful rivers in Scotland, if you've ever been up there, and beautiful river pools that are so, you know, beautifully clear that you just want to jump in and swim. But if you think about the Thames in London, I mean, you just wouldn't want to jump in it, would you? Because it's green and dank and murky. And it's thinking about that pH that we're creating through what we're eating and what we're drinking. And, you know, the more acidic that water becomes, because what I'd like you to think about is if you had your goldfish in a tank that looked like the one in the middle, and it got poorly, then you'd be thinking, oh, I'd better take this goldfish to the vet and see what's wrong with it. Or I'd better go to the vet and tell the vet about it because I can't really take this whacking great fish tank, but I'll just go to the vet and ask him a question about it and say, well, you know, the fish has got lumps and bumps on its skin and it's nearly upside down and it's not looking too good. And he says, well, stick this stuff in the water and it'll probably feel better. So you put this stuff in the water and for about 5 or 6 days, the fish is a bit better. And then it starts to list to the side a bit and look a bit dopey and it's not eating its meals. And you can see, you know, if you can imagine, it's got layers and layers of old food at the bottom of the tank and the water's looking really green. And the thing is, it's like Bruce Lipton says, it's all about the environment, stupid. And not you. And and so if we clean the tank, the fish won't want to leave, if you like. It'll want to stay there. And it's sort of like thinking about, well, if we put a healthy cell that needs an alkaline environment into an acid environment, how is it going to feel? How is it going to thrive? And so some of the problems that we've, you know, you notice with overacidity is that, one, the body will hold weight in places where we don't want it to hold. And one of those certainly can be over the abdomen. And, you know, it's not that fat cells aren't helpful, because fat cells are very helpful because they can hold acid wastes away from our main organs. That's one of the reasons they're so useful. So we're much more prone to allergies if we're overacidic. We will tend to feel quite fatigued, you know, quite often. Our blood sugar will be all over the place, very up and down. And we very often feel and our energy alongside that, you know, energy crashes. And alongside that, we can feel quite flat. And so looking at the pH from an emotional perspective, it's again thinking about what happens when your blood is highly, you know, your blood is supposed to be at an alkaline state of 7.365, and it will absolutely do its utmost to maintain that homeostasis, that alkaline pH. Now, when it's at that alkaline pH, your blood cells will be free flowing. But in a state of high acidity, your red blood cells will tend to be clumping together, and you'll literally feel pretty under the weather and a bit fed up. Yeah. Whereas, you know, your cells have the ability to regenerate themselves when the blood is really vibrant and, you know, the blood cells are flowing easily through the blood. We've got that ability to create a happier state. And so if you think about your happy cells in an alkaline environment, we'll be talking about them being able to connect with each other and communicate with each other. Whereas if they're in an acidic environment, then literally what happens with cholesterol when we're very dry, when we're very in an acid pH, and when the cell membranes are at the wrong fat ratios, then that cell starts to get very dark and cold and cut off from all of the others. And all of the others can very often feel the same way in the body. And so we're unable to connect really with our higher self. You know, well, what did I come here for? To nag people about nutrition. So the other things that we're going to be looking at is, how does your body get waste out? Now, this is the Chinese model of the sort of three major routes of elimination, if you like. So you've got your lungs, and of course we breathe waste out through our lungs, as well as inhale carbon dioxide. With every breath we're exhaling waste. And the Chinese call these three routes of elimination, as they describe them, the triple heater. And so the upper burner is your respiration, and the middle burner is your digestion, and you're burning food, and then you're producing waste that is going to be excreted from the lower gut. And then the lower burner is, as it says here, the drainage ditch. That's your kidneys. That's your elimination of your urine. And you've got, it's really important that these three routes of elimination have what they need in order to be able to eliminate waste from the body. Because if the body can cleanse, then that's the opposite side to the nourishing side. We nourish it and it's able to detoxify itself, because at each and every moment your cells are producing metabolic waste in the process of creating energy. So I'd like you to do this week, if you don't mind. And it's not for me to look at. The food diaries aren't for me to look at. None of it is for me to look at. It's for you to sort of notice what you're doing at the moment, without judgment, ideally. It's just to sort of notice what you're doing. Now, what I'd like you to do is just close your eyes for a moment, if you would, and just think about your present health. And I'm going to ask you the question is, how would you like you and your cells to feel in 2 years' time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time, 20 years' time, if we're all still here, of course.
I won't be.
Well, you never know.
Miracles do happen.
And how would you like them to feel?
Do you want us to say, or just?
Oh yeah, do chip in. But otherwise, I do far too much talking.
I'd like to think that all of those things that you've just been telling us were all clean and beautiful, and you know, and we're radiating health. That would be wonderful.
That's lovely.
Yeah, I second that. And I need some food, and now I don't know what on earth I'm going to eat or drink.
Well, don't worry. We'll definitely be finding out. So, have you got any questions following on from that? Because obviously that's a lot of information.
I found the cell part I could keep I could cope with, but all the next bit has kind of been a bit too much for my brain to take on.
There was a lot, and in some ways it was actually slightly scary. I didn't think it was going to be like this, but you do just think about everything, and I'm thinking, oh good, and all those things with the dehydrate, I'm thinking, oh my golly, that's so me, and the stress and everything. So now actually it stressed me even more, because I'm thinking, gosh, I'm like a walking time bomb that's going to go off. Something's going to happen.
Well, I feel the same, Jane. So
yeah. It is quite scary when and actually I didn't know any of this. Didn't know none of this. Hugely interesting. And I know one of my daughters is going to so want to know exactly. So I'm going to have to get this right, because she'll want to know everything. And we actually have a granddaughter who actually today was in Great Ormond Street, so she has had to have stuff to keep her alive and all the rest of it. But my daughter is hugely for everything you've said. So nutrition-wise, those kids couldn't be getting, and I'm just going to tell her she's so done the right thing. It actually makes me think quite, because it's everything that you've said. The water, she pumps water down them, everything they eat is sort of as organic as she can get it, and she cooks stuff, and little Tilda could not have a better diet.
Yes.
So, and that shows that that's totally the right thing to do, isn't it?
It is, yes. And the thing is that we're going to break all of this down literally chunk by chunk now, in detail over the next several weeks, and just look at little bit by little bit, so that what that does is it motivates you to do the next little bit, because to think about it all and doing it all at once is overwhelming. And I think Janice will probably vouch, but it's not a good way to do it, is it?
So Janice, you've done all this before, have you? So you're kind of an old hand at this, so you're not finding it quite so scary as I am.
Yeah, but I did feel like you at the start. In fact, worse, because I ended up falling on Susie. It was one of those synchronistic moments. I landed by accident on her course through a friend who just said, "Why don't you come?" And 2 weeks later, had a diagnosis of a scan, and I had a diagnosis of precancerous cells in the breast. And it's a whole long journey. This is about 5 years ago now as to what happened after that. But I ended up with the dilemma of which way do I go to deal with that, because I'd landed on Susie's course. So I was very scared, because it was life-threatening, and they were very serious decisions. So it was whatever you're feeling times 10. And I think what you do eventually learn to do is that you're in your best place to make decisions over the food that you're eating in any minute, in a calm place. And when you go into fight or flight, it's easy to say this because I've spent so much of my own time in fight or flight. I hate it, but you are in the best place to make the best decisions when you're not in fight or flight, and that's the best place for yourselves as well. And I have relaxed a bit, you know, about it all since.
So that's good.
But how you feel is normal at the start. But I think that if there was one thing I would say is it's not urgent. It's not urgent.
No.
You don't have to do all of this tonight.
No.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Gosh.
just pick a little thing to work on to start with, and you just keep building. And that's what I've done. I'm still building. Building.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it is just, so it's the stress thing that really, because I know that the way that I felt, and I know I just get so stressed on everything.
Are you covering stress in this, Susie? I don't, because there wasn't one on the original one. Is there a section on stress?
I'm actually going to do a Monday night on stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's a massive issue for us all.
Yes.
And I think the pandemic has kind of, you know, I said to Susie, that's what's really kind of got me in a bit of a stew. You know, we moved back up north less than 18 months ago, and then we came back, and then it was the pandemic, and oh my golly, I just thought we were all going to die. Yeah. I really just got it absolutely. I'm still not totally sleeping properly, so that's all stress. And then everything you say, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'll go and eat now, drink some more water.
It's the difference. This is 6 years wisdom since I first, 5 to 6 years. It's the difference that you're talking about, is allowing yourself to sit in fear versus allowing yourself to sit in trust. That's the crucial thing.
Yeah.
Gosh.
But I do think at the moment that the whole planet is scared, and I think we collectively picked that up.
Yes.
I'm sure that's what, because I mean, I've been working on a lot of this stuff for years and years, and I'm upset with myself for having gotten to a very stressed state. Yeah, if I'm being logical, I can see never in my life has the whole planet been in the situation it is. No. And totally so, right. You know, I think that's making me emotional. So I think I've hit on a nerve there.
Yeah. Well, we'll all have a good chat tomorrow.
We'll all go and have a drink of water.
And what I'd like to say to you is that actually, and you know, I think Janice will have appreciated this as well, it's much better really to make changes in long-term habits quite slowly, because that way it's less of a shock to the body's physiology when you do it nice and steady, and you don't get quite such a healing reaction, if you like, that can occur even from just starting to drink some water. So, you know, there's no, like Janice says, there's no hurry. There's no hurry. We've got this time together. Just relax and enjoy the journey.
And trust you'll get there.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
I think, you know, there's also a difference. This is 5 years wisdom, that there's a difference between knowing something intellectually and feeling it. So you can be told something on the course, you know, and intellectually, I get that, I'll do it, and it kind of like fades out. But if you do something and it has a dramatic effect and you feel differently, it kind of like resonates and sticks in a way that you know. I mean, I get fed up with myself because I never eat perfectly even now, but I don't know, there's just a difference. And if you've only got it intellectually, you'll find it much harder, and you can't predict when you're going to get something emotionally. It's not like you can say, right, emotionally I'm going to get it, you know. Those things are almost out of your control. And so you have to take it at pace, because you don't know when those things are going to happen. But they're very powerful moments, those moments.
Goodness, we've got whizzy minds now. Gosh, yes, that's thank you for that, because that's actually really helpful that you've sort of done so much of it, and I don't feel quite so daunted. It doesn't feel quite so strange, does it?
Yeah, and I think also we're in the presence of perfection with food here. And you know, You have to realise that the rest of us are just human. So you will fall off the wagon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, but to totally, I mean, the food thing I know because I've altered my diet, and I would say my diet, I don't think, Susie, remember, is not actually that bad. It's kind of other things. And you can totally alter things, and I feel better. And my husband knows now there are certain things. I said, actually, no, this is what I'm eating because I feel so much better when I do that. So kind of the food bit, it's just obviously doing all the rest of it and getting the food bit totally right. I'm hoping that will make all my cells happy cells.
Yeah. That's
oh yes. Oh, that was brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope to upload the recording to YouTube tomorrow, and I'll send you the slide PDFs with that and some handouts as well. And you've got the book refs on there if you're interested to take a look at. And whiz back any questions you've got, but I mean, we're all speaking tomorrow as well, so you know, if any questions come up, then please do ask, and we'll make a start on everyone's personal journey tomorrow, if you like. Yeah.
Lovely.
It's not a group thing tomorrow, is it? It's a series of one-to-ones.
One-to-ones, yeah. Yeah. And then a little bit more next week.
Super, lovely. So I'll see you tomorrow, Susie, and I'll see you other two in a week.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Power to the people.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll think of that. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great week. I mean, before next week, but I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Cheers.
Bye.